Night Shift Whispers.
Many people, including myself, often wonder, am I an indigo? Up to this moment, I remain adamant that I am not. I have never felt like an indigo, who is said to communicate with ghosts, perform astral projections, or even know the past of spirits. I don't possess those abilities. I just happen to be unlucky to encounter a few of them who seemed malicious. Their presence appeared as if they were deliberately trying to disrupt and frighten me. Like this one incident. When I was 4 years old, a few minutes after sunset, during a heavy rain that had just subsided, my parents were praying in a dedicated room for worship in our house. I sat on a wooden chair in the living room. The atmosphere was quiet as the TV was intentionally turned off, not to disturb my parents' concentration during their prayer. Moreover, my house was quite isolated from the neighboring houses. Sitting there alone, flipping through the pages of an illustrated storybook, I heard laughter. I looked left and right, trying to find the source of the laughter, but there was no one in sight. It definitely wasn't my parents' laughter since they were deep in prayer. However, the laughter persisted, now very close to me, as if it were mocking me for not being able to locate it. When I looked down, a chicken's tail emerged from beneath the chair. I leaned down to examine it more closely. Indeed, a rooster was under the chair I was sitting on, and it was laughing, but not with a rooster's voice. It was the distinct cackling laughter of an old witch in animated movies. The rooster continued to chuckle as I started crying, calling for my mom and dad. When my mother arrived, the rooster had already escaped. I couldn't recall how it managed to get away, as I was too busy crying. What I do remember is that the rooster was no longer inside the house. Even though all the doors and windows had been tightly closed for the past 2 hours since the rain began. Also, there was no one in my neighborhood who kept chickens. Was I hallucinating? Clearly not, as both of my parents heard the laughter, even though they didn't catch a glimpse of the rooster. However, not all entities from their realm appeared before me with malicious intent. I think it happened once or twice, or there were some who initially seemed surprised, realizing that their presence could be seen by me. Eventually, they decided to interact with me in a friendly manner or leave a positive impression. Like one time when I was around 8 years old. It was then that I realized that for a very long time, perhaps since I couldn't remember, every night there was a middle-aged man in a white robe with a long beard sitting cross-legged on the frame of my bedroom window. Half of his body extended outside the window, of course. The window was closed, making it impossible for someone to sit comfortably there, especially in a cross-legged position. Nevertheless, he sat comfortably in that spot, as if his body could float and pass through objects. He always hummed a lullaby that made my eyes heavy with sleep, and then I would fall asleep. I never had the chance to tell my parents about the man in the white robe because I always fell asleep quickly. By the next morning, I had already forgotten. I only remembered it in the evening when I saw him again, but I was too drowsy to talk about it. This continued for years and eventually became something I considered normal and never thought about. One day when I was in the 5th grade of elementary school, after returning from a 3-day scout camp, I felt something was different when I was about to sleep. I had trouble sleeping, as if something was missing. It took me a while to think, and I finally realized that the figure in the white robe who always sat on the frame of my window and hummed the lullaby was no longer there. And he never appeared again in the following days. I don't know whether all this time he was waiting for the right moment to leave me or how exactly it happened. I truly don't understand. However, deep in my heart, I realize one thing: I somewhat regret not having the chance to bid him goodbye. If I had known he would be gone, perhaps I would have at least said goodbye before going camping. To this day, I still hope that he, wherever he is now, knows that I am grateful for helping me fall asleep faster during most of my childhood. Another memorable incident occurred when I was around 9 years old. Throughout the summer, my mother often took me to a field in the late afternoon. The field was not far from our village, only a 15-minute walk away. My parents cultivated vegetables there. Every evening, while my mother was busy watering and tending to her vegetable plants, she instructed me to wait in a small hut in the middle of the field. She usually brought snacks, storybooks, and toys to keep me occupied while I waited. I can't remember exactly when it started, but suddenly, I had a friend who appeared in the hut every time I was alone. My friend was a girl, taller than me, with fair skin, long reddish-black curly hair, and always dressed in beautiful dresses, resembling a princess. I assumed she must be from a wealthy family. However, I never had any desire to ask where her home was or who her parents were. What I remember is that her name was Sabrina. She always emerged from a path behind the bushes not far from our field. Just before my mother finished her work and returned to the hut, the girl would bid farewell and vanish behind the same bushes she came from. I never told my mother about Sabrina because I was afraid she would report her to Sabrina's parents, and then Sabrina might be forbidden from coming, leaving me without a friend. However, I did share the story with my school friends, who thought I was imagining things and even called me crazy. It saddened me, but I shared with Sabrina how my friends treated me when I talked about her. Sabrina remained silent and changed the subject. She said, "When the vegetable planting season is over, I will be lonely." I asked if she could come to my house to play in return, as it wasn't far. She replied that her parents wouldn't allow it. That reinforced the reason why I didn't tell my parents about Sabrina. I really liked her. She was kind and understood me. We often played house, read books together, and shared snacks. I wanted to keep playing with her for a long time. The summer ended. All the vegetables had been harvested, and for a long time, I didn't visit the field again. The next time I had a chance to go there, the bushes where Sabrina used to appear had been trimmed down. Since then, I never saw her again. As I grew older, I came to understand that there were no houses nearby, and the path through the bushes led to a rarely frequented marshy area. Regardless of whether Sabrina came from the human world or another dimension, I cherished the memory of our friendship deep within my heart, and I still missed her. The last one remarkable encounter with a spirit happened when I was in the 12th grade of high school. Behind my classroom, there was a large pear tree with exceptionally sweet fruit, unlike ordinary pears. During the fruit season, students enjoyed plucking and eating the pears right beneath the tree. What they didn't know was that an old man would sweep away the fallen leaves and leftover peels after they were done. For my friends who couldn't see him, they assumed it was the school's cleaning service taking care of it. But it wasn't. I distinctly saw that it was an old man cleaning up. By then, I was mature enough to realize that the old man wasn't of the same kind as me, and perhaps he resided within the tree. Feeling guilty that my friends were making a mess around his home, I occasionally helped clean up after they left. I wasn't unaware that the old man often watched me. I simply pretended not to know anything about him because I didn't want him to know I could see him. During our graduation party, my friends picnicked under the tree, leaving their trash scattered around. Before heading home, I gathered their trash into a bin. I didn't see the old man that day, but as I was about to dispose of the trash, he suddenly appeared behind me and said, "I know you can see me." Startled beyond belief, I immediately turned away, my legs weak, wanting to run but unable to. I felt like I might faint. For a moment, he spoke, "Take care out there." Then, his presence gradually faded from around me. When I looked back, he was gone. It was as though he knew I would leave the school, and we wouldn't meet again, so he bid his farewell. As I grew older, I still occasionally met or crossed paths with entities from other realms like that. However, the rest of these encounters were just chilling, like the typical experiences of encountering ghosts that most people have. I still felt scared and disturbed, but my only way to deal with it was to pretend as though I couldn't see or sense their presence. In this way, I hoped they would become disinterested and unattracted to me.